Hey, this is Evan Longoria of your San Francisco Giants, and you're listening to TortureCast.
You're listening to a podcast by and for fans of the three-time world champion, San Francisco Giants. With hosts Chad King and Eric Nathanson. This is TortureCast.
It's Tuesday, March 2nd, 2021, and this is episode 214 of the TortureCast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. We're coming to you on Facebook Live today. This will be recorded and put up on Facebook and eventually on YouTube, and of course the audio will be on our podcast as well, where you normally get it. I'm your host, Chad King, and joining me today from Las Vegas, or thereabouts, Eric Nathanson. What's up, dude?
Hey, Chad. Not much. Just so glad the games have started. We finally have stuff to talk about again.
I know, right?
There's only so many transactions we can talk about. And so at least there's finally some action to get going. And it really feels like baseball is around the corner for the first time. How's things in California?
You know, with the numbers getting better and, I don't know, just kind of this, we always talk about this, you know, spring is sprung, spring hopes, or hope springs eternal, you know, that kind of stuff, that kind of sentiment is definitely coming across right now, I'd say, especially, again, with the numbers going down and all of us being locked up for so long. In fact, my daughter, who plays high school softball, she's having her first practice this afternoon. Wow. And she's been doing online learning, and she probably will, at least for the next month. So she's really looking forward to it. In fact, she even told me, Dad, I haven't seen these, you know, my friends in like a year. I don't even know how to like act around them. Like, what am I supposed to do socially? They're all feeling the same thing, honey. You know, get out there, have fun, you know, throw the ball around. Hopefully the coach doesn't make them too hard in terms of running. I'm a little afraid that the conditioning aspect may be a little too far up front. But anyway, you know, getting out there. It's sunny here in California. It's nice weather. I just love it. I love it. I haven't seen much of the Giants because it's been on MLB, the app. And so I got to subscribe to that so I can watch a little more baseball. But baseball has started. So how about you? How much have you seen?
I watched the one game on Sunday just because, I mean, it was finally Giants baseball. I mean, they've only played 13 innings.
Yeah, I know.
So it's not like they're busting out of the gates here playing big games. I have no idea how many innings tonight is scheduled for against the Dodgers. That's probably something I should look at. But, you know, it's just nice to have the rhythm of baseball back. Like, I love being able to throw on a random Yankee Jays game now. You know, it's 10 in the morning and, oh, look, baseball's starting. MLB Network's running stuff every day.
Yeah, that's what's nice. Since we're all working from home now, you know, at least I'm here at home and I just got baseball on my TV in my office here. It's great. So it's just, you know, just background noise. It feels good. It feels normal. I just love this time of the year. You know, we all think the Giants have, you know, maybe a chance, even though they might not. But that's neither here nor there. We'll see about the expanded playoffs if they come around. But let's get into the show notes here, Eric. So first of all, you know, it's real early. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. We have just a ridiculous number of players in camp. It was a record number of non-roster invitees. We really don't know what this roster is going to look like come out. I mean, we certainly can probably secure a good 15 to 18 off the top of our heads, but you know, there could be some surprises this year. I mean, we had some really odd names at the beginning of the season last year and the year before that. So I think we may be surprised with some of the names that come out of camp this year, even if they're only on the team for a couple of weeks.
You know, it was funny. They mentioned something on the Angels broadcast, and it's the same stat we bring up every year, that the Giants have had a different left fielder starting every year since Bonds left. And if it's a right-handed opening day starter, Dick's going to get back-to-back starts and be the guy to finally break that curse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to know that there are, because there's guys like Dick and Yaz and Slater, I believe, is totally got one locked up. Dubon, I think, has a roster spot locked up. And then, you know, the regulars Belt. And we'll get into Belt in a minute. I'm a little confused on Belt.
Yeah, no, it's a little concerning, but
But it's like you said, there's plenty of roster spots still available, and this is, I believe, the most they. I feel like every day the Giants signed this pitcher. The next day, the Giants signed that pitcher. The next day, the Giants signed this pitcher. Like, I've never seen a team sign so many pitchers going into camp. So every other day we're getting new names, but it's not even, it's the fringe guys that we're getting. But it's good to see. Oh man, I just broke my pen.
Oh man, okay. I hope that's not a sign this show is going to go downhill.
Right, man. Like, am I going off the rails already? Come on, I've had my coffee.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm in Giants mentality. I've been talking. I mentioned it to Chad. I was going to mention the Facebook group, Giants Chatter. If you're on Facebook, you're seeing this if you're on Facebook in one respect. But for those listeners, and you want to join a good Giants group for it's a lefty starting for Seattle, Chris. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Gotta love interactive television. So Dick still has a shot because he's Dick. But Giants Chatter, it's a good Facebook group. It's a good group of guys over there. It's a good place for game threads and things like that. And that'll get going because we don't do game threads here at TortureCast. We're not a breaking news site. We are
a little too busy for that.
Yeah, we're not that guy. So if you want to get that kind of information without the Kruk and Kipe Facebook group vibe, go to Giants Chatter. And I wanted to plug them early because, if we end up down a rabbit hole in our seasons later on and people don't want to listen to us talk about 2002, I can understand that.
Yeah. We have a tendency to go long in the tooth on nostalgia and kind of our older wise opinions, I guess I could say. Older demographic, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. So, okay, it's early, Eric, but, what do you think so far about La Stella and Yaz potentially being the 1-2 punch at the top of the lineup?
I was just reading about this morning. Apparently that is going to be the case when they're facing right-handed. I love La Stella. I just love the La Stella signing. I think he's going to bring so much. I know he's a lefty, and everybody's talking that they're going to platoon, but I just see himself forcing his way into the lineup with at-bats. He's the kind of guy that Farhan likes with a low strikeout, high walk ratio. He's just one of the fighters that gets on base. I've watched him for years between the Cubs and then what was last year? It was the Angels and the A's. Yeah. And he felt like that Scudero trade for the A's last year. You know what I mean? He was that guy that you just plug in, and he's just going to keep the line moving as often as possible. And in the absence of a true leadoff man, La Stella's probably the guy that's going to get the most reps.
No, I think so too. I mean, he's just one of those scrappy players. He just always seems to be a little, thorn in the side of the opposing pitcher. I mean, it's evidenced with his, high contact rate, low strikeout rate, which has been great. And obviously, he walked off the Giants last year in a game, so that was fun. Yeah, he did. So
he was an angel, right?
Yeah, when he was an angel. So, he single-handedly destroyed the Giants' playoff hopes. No, I'm just kidding. They lost 3 in a row at the end of the season. The Giants destroyed their own playoff hopes. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So you mentioned Brandon Bell, and, he had his heel issue, which he had surgery on, and they thought that he may or may not be ready for the start of the regular season, but should be in camp. But according to Mark Sanchez on Twitter, it's not clear how long Belt has been sick, and I'm going to insert, it's non-COVID. They keep saying it's a non-COVID illness. But Kapler added that the first baseman is feeling better, but the illness has sapped his energy, and there's no timetable for when he will resume workouts. Belt was already a question mark for opening day following surgery last October on his right heel. So, yeah, I mean, they're not disclosing what this issue is. It's not a family issue. It's not, personal leave. I guess it is some sort of sickness, and they're just not disclosing. This clearly isn't the flu, okay? It's not the flu, and apparently it's not COVID. So what the hell's going on? What do you think this is? Like a meningitis, a bacterial infection? I mean, why are they not disclosing this? Not that they have to.
I mean, with Belt, it could be anything. It could be Ebola. I mean, this guy... He is the most wacky, injury-prone guy that I've ever seen. It's amazing how often he's had these weird injuries. And just things hang around. I don't expect Bell to be ready for opening day after hearing this.
No.
I mean, he's got to get back in a rehab program. And I guess that puts La Stella probably in first base. to start the season, and I have no problems with that whatsoever. Belt's going to be Belt. We just hope that when he comes back that he can be the Belt of 2020 instead of the non-hot streak. But it is concerning when you don't know what an illness is. And I'm no doctor, and I don't play one on TV. So thankfully, I don't get to diagnose Brandon Belt and what is going on. I mean, you always have to wonder, too, with concussions. He's got a history of them. So is there anything that comes back into play when it comes to concussions? I know football players get the CTE and they end up having symptoms down the road. So is it possible that that's something that Belt's dealing with? It's good that it's non-COVID related, but I mean, who knows? You know, it strikes another thought. How many of these guys got COVID during the offseason and we don't know about it?
Yeah, you know, we really don't know that, do we? So,
no.
You know, they don't disclose that kind of stuff. So I'm not sure what to say.
The Angels, it was so funny watching the Angels broadcast on Sunday. The broadcaster mentioned that at some point. He's like, well, this guy had COVID during the offseason and that guy had COVID during the offseason. I'm like, how do we know that all these guys had it? And then it was so funny, though, because there was no minor league season, like more than half the players in the game, under the stat line, it said did not play in 2020.
Yeah.
Because there was no minor league reps, and all they did was get to be either at the alternate site or nothing at all. And it was just really one of those weird COVID-related things that reminds you that we're still kind of in this COVID-related world. And it brings it back to Belt, where they have to be like, it's non-COVID. They have to make sure to tell us that ahead of time.
I didn't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, they do. And I think people have to remember that, you know, baseball can't get too far in front of itself, not just with Belt. They got to announce when it's COVID, when it's not COVID, when it's suspected COVID, when you've been exposed to COVID. And that all ties into kind of what's going on right now in terms of, I'm going to jump just a tiny bit ahead in the show notes, about the MLB rule changes for spring training. It was quietly announced last week or the week before. So it wasn't really something that I had paid attention to, but it's already kind of developed or been implemented already in the first couple of days of spring training. And that is through March 13th, managers can agree mutually to shorten games to as little as 5 innings. It could be 6 or 7 as well. Additional to that, the 3-batter minimum for a pitcher won't be enforced. And the weirdest rule, which did happen in a game yesterday, is a defensive manager having the ability to end an inning before getting 3 outs if the pitcher has thrown at least 20 pitches. And they can come back out the next inning and start an inning. It's weird, but it's...
Wait, they don't even have to pull the guy?
No, they can just end the inning. Like if they've thrown 20 pitches. So this happened yesterday. I forget the name of the pitcher, but he had bases loaded and 2 outs, and you have to conclude a batter. So you have to conclude the plate appearance, right? You can't just do it in the middle of an at bat. But he got, I don't know if it was a second out or another person got on base, but the bases were loaded with 2 outs, and they said, okay, end of the inning. And then he just went back out and started pitching with a fresh inning next inning. And got him 1, 2, 3. It was really weird. So I mean, obviously. In this day and age, we don't really pay attention too much to spring training statistics, but I don't know, maybe he was happy. He's like, yeah, I left 3 on base and came back to a fresh inning next inning. I didn't give up any runs.
Somebody cares about them. The guy that got left in the on-deck circle.
Right, yeah, he's like,
loaded.
I had a ribby chance. I know, right? It's like, how very
am I supposed
odd.
To prove myself? It was very weird when they did it, and it was just so funny because I was explaining that rule at that moment when it happened. And it's so funny that they can. They should give like a team a run or two, to offset. You know, if there's runners on base, each runner counts for half a run. So, I mean, there should be compensation of some kind. If you're gonna let me just decide to end the inning, I just
can't. I know. I just can't wait till just all this COVID stuff is over, and maybe in 2022. Although we got the CBA coming, right? It's like, oh crap, what's going to happen in the offseason? Well, that's going to be talked about at the end of this season, of course. That's going to be a big, big deal. Okay, so let's talk about a couple of acquisitions the Giants made since our last podcast. One of them was sort of surprising. Aaron Sanchez was signed by the Giants. He was a 1 year, $4 million with incentives that I think can increase it to like $6.5 million or whatever. So this is a guy who was an all-star in 2016 with the Blue Jays. He's often injured. He's coming off a shoulder surgery. And at the time, 2 years ago, he was throwing about 93, 94, and apparently in his showcase last month, he was throwing 98. I mean, when you're in a showcase, you're giving it all you've got. We don't know if that's going to be what he throws in games, but he does have at least the capability of throwing that hard like he used to. But he's had problems with shoulder, and that really stemmed from blisters that formed on his right middle finger. And I didn't realize how bad it was. There's actually some videos online documenting his blister and the blood and the scabs and everything that kept forming on the side of his middle finger. And it's pretty nasty. I'm like, I couldn't pitch with that. There's no way. And so what he was doing, he was slightly altering his shoulder slot, he said, to compensate for the pressure on his middle finger, and that gave him the shoulder problems.
Ow.
Now he's given a clean bill of health. He's had the surgery. His hands are clean. It's a low-risk offer, I'd say. $4 million for a guy who has a lot of potential. He's still young. He has a career record of 32 and 33, a 3.98 ERA. He was an All-Star in 2016. Where he had an excellent record. He won 16 games, and he had a 3.0 ERA. So, it's there. The track record's there. But this is what Farhan does, right? Good old reclamation projects, and he has a really good track record of doing so. If he's used effectively, not necessarily as a starter right off the bat, maybe a middle reliever, to see what he does, and go on from there. We'll see.
It's such a cheap deal that you have to go for it. This is part of the signing every pitcher in sight philosophy that Farhan has entailed for this offseason. And I don't mind it. If he really is throwing 98, even if he's not, if he's throwing 95, what I'd be curious about is what pitch was he throwing to cause those blisters? And has he taken it out of his repertoire at this point?
Yeah.
Because there's a way to fall into old habits if he's just doing the same thing that he did before. So, I mean, I'd have to wonder what pitch it is that if he has to slightly alter his grip on the ball, and if that makes him a different pitcher. This claiming 2,700 RPM on his fastball. I mean,
yeah,
that's pretty good. But
his agent is claiming that. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So,
I mean,
we'll see.
He's good for a flyer, and if the Giants go to a 6-man rotation, he'll probably be the guy that slides up into it right away.
Yeah, he could be. So another reclamation project is Scott Kazmir, and that's a name we haven't heard in years. In fact, he hasn't pitched since 2016, and this guy was a stud back in the days, especially the early part of the decade. He's now 37 years old. He has a career record of 108.96, 4.01 ERA, and he threw about 92 to 93 in his showcase. So again, take that with a grain of salt. He's an older guy, hasn't pitched in 5 years in the majors. I don't know. This one seems less promising, obviously, for many reasons, but I guess the Giants again said, hey, low risk, like you said, just sign as many pitchers as we can and just use that shotgun approach, next man in line, next man in line, next man in line, especially if we are not facing a shortened season this year, if they actually get a full season in this year. The Giants don't have the strongest pitching staff this year. So with the length of the season, we're going to see a lot of injuries and a lot of downtime, and you never know. You might see a Scott Kazmir pitching mid-season. It'll be weird, but
I think we could, because of what you just said, and I think that this is where Farhan is ahead of the curve. This is the whole reason he's signing 8 million pitchers, is because we're coming off of a shortened season, and then for a lot of these guys, no season whatsoever. And so arms are going to have a tough time bouncing back. And who has the most injuries? It's pitchers. It's just always pitchers. We watched a guy in the Angels get pulled from the game on Sunday with a elbow tweak, and he'd only thrown like 8 pitches. So pitchers are the guys that get hurt the most often. And so that's why I kind of think Farhan's ahead of the curve this year. And this pitching depth, I mean, I don't know how good the pitching depth is as far as talent-wise, but the amount of depth, I think it bodes better than a lot of other teams are stacked up heading into the season, because we're just not seeing these kind of news stories every day. We're not seeing every day the Texas Rangers signed this guy, the Texas Rangers signed that pitcher. No, it's the Giants that are out there doing it. And I think this is one of those trust the process moments with Farhan, because every offseason is not going to look like this. They're going
No.
to have the opportunity to sign stars. Just this is what they had to do coming out of a pandemic, and while we're still in a pandemic.
Yeah, some things we'll talk about I haven't put in here, but that brings up the fact that, this could be Posey's last year, Crawford's last year, Belt's last year. I mean, we got a lot of long-time Giants, familiar faces, and veterans with high salaries that are going to be cleared off the books after this season. And Farhan, there is no doubt in my mind that he's going to part ways with most, if not all, of these guys. And it's just a business, and I hate to see it, but at the same time, when the previous ownership signed, I mean, look, Posey, I thought the contract was too high, but for what he's done and who he is, I was still okay with it. But guys like Crawford and Bell, they're just really large contracts for guys who are pretty, average, I would say. I know Crawford, he got snubbed in that MLB, like, top 10 shortstop free agents coming up in 2022. And he's like, what about this guy? Now, look, they were looking at guys 26, 27 years old. Crawford's like 32 or 33. It's like, well, they weren't talking about you, Brandon. Sorry. You're on the other side of your career trajectory. So, yeah, they're not going to talk about you as a young star. But, yeah, the Giants are going to have a lot of cap room, if you want to call it that, luxury cap room, going into next year. And I think you're right. I think this is hopefully the last year that he's looking at the reclamation pile and just going, who can I retread this year? We just need depth. We need arms. We need, a sixth outfielder. We need these guys. It's going to be a challenge for this year, but I do think heading into 2022 and 23, things are looking better for the Giants.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it now on Spot Rack. They have 144 million committed for this year. Mm-hmm. And then it says they have 69 million committed for next year, but that's not right because it's got 22 million listed under catchers, and we know that's an option. It's got 23.25 listed under infielders. Those are options.
Options, yeah.
And starting pitching has 22 million committed, and that again, I believe, is Cueto
option, I think, yeah.
So the Giants are going to have basically a blank checkbook after this season, which is why, I think that's why they feel like they're taking a shot. They want to play competitive games. Last season, that was the mantra. We want to play competitive games late in the season, and I think that's the same mantra going into this season. And it's probably why the roster is a little older than we had expected with some of these veterans like Listella coming in. And now, I mean, you sign guys like Casimir, who's older than the pitching coach. Aaron Sanchez has been around a little bit. So it brings it up, a little bit at that point. But it's because you need veterans to guide through this before you can bring in big guns at the end. Because the Giants don't have that, I was reading today, Bags wrote about it, that one superstar. They don't have it anymore. They have Yaz. They have Posey, but Posey is a what if, and Yaz is a let's hope he can keep doing it type thing, and so that's absolutely why Farhan attacked this season like this, and it just blows my mind how much is coming off the books. We're going to see a completely different team next year, and we already feel like we're seeing a completely different team this year.
I thought it'd be interesting if we still don't know exactly what's happening with the playoff structure this year. Most betting people say it's going to be just the standard 10 teams. If we had expanded playoffs in some capacity this year, and if the Giants found themselves within reach of a wild card spot near the trade deadline, it would be interesting to see if Farhan would try and get anyone fairly large in stature, only because there'd be just a very small overlap in salary. You know what I mean? For the end of this year, but then clearing the books next year, he would have the capacity to potentially re-sign that free agent who's potentially in their last year of their contract as a rental going into next year, because they would have kind of an appetizer sampler in San Francisco, and maybe they would like it, here or not. Obviously, if the Giants are nowhere in contention near the trade deadline, of course you're not going to see that. In fact, you might actually see a few Giants veterans be jettisoned for a team that needs some depth. Which would be a way to, kind of say goodbye to them anyway, which would be sad. But I don't want it to end up that way. But it's possible.
But we're not going to get like some like farewell game where we get, you know what I mean? Like we're going to act like it if there's fans in the stands in September, the final home game, if, you know, these guys aren't going to make the playoffs, and we're all pretty sure of, you know, the fact that they won't be Giants after that year. But like, we're never going to get our proper goodbyes with these guys. So
no, I'm worried about that.
Yeah, if trading them for prospects is the proper goodbye, or even major league ready talent is the goodbye that they end up getting. I mean, it's appreciated because there's value in there.
Yeah, it's something that's going to be interesting as the season develops. All right, so we will have minor league baseball again this year, which is a good thing. AAA will be starting April 6th, a delayed start, and then single and double A are going to be starting on Star Wars Day, actually, May 4th. So, yeah, you know, COVID protocol. I guess their seasons are going to be slightly shortened, but, you know, that's okay. We have a lot of these guys up in camp, you know, right now. So, but, I mean, you know, it's crazy to think that some of these minor leaguers haven't played in more than a year. And it's good to see that they're back. And I don't want to get too much into the woods or the weeds about it, but it was really interesting to see the, shall we call it a streamlining of minor league affiliates with Major League Baseball.
Oh, my God.
But significantly reducing the number of teams and therefore reducing the number of, you know, roster spots and everything. And I have to admit, I mean, that would be so rough if you were kind of a fringe professional baseball player and now you don't have a spot because they contracted the teams. That's just, it's a rough way to go out, you know?
But on the flip side, from an organizational perspective, it probably creates more fights for jobs and should create better baseball, you would think.
Yeah, no, and that's true, and it streamlines operations and consolidates talent and financial resources and all of these things. There's a lot of pros to it, but just from the kind of the human aspect of it, you know, it's not like the guys who are not going to be in the minor leagues any longer were going to make the major leagues. I'm not saying that. In fact, most of them probably would have languished with bus rides for the next 3 years before finally realizing that they need to go find another career, that, you know, they just can't do this anymore. But it's still, you know, it's a tough way to go out, especially when it's kind of just all of a sudden they lose a whole season to COVID and then minor leagues get, you know, truncated and they're just like, that's it, I'm out. I don't have a career anymore. It's like, oof.
Yeah, God, that would be you.
Yeah, that's a rough way to go. But, you know, it is what it is. But they've also realigned. I don't have it in front of me, but I know like the PCL is now AAA West or whatever it is. It's odd how they've realigned these divisions for like Major League Baseball. A lot of people are upset because they like the history of it, but you know, I don't know.
I love the history of it. I watched The Battered Bastards of Baseball on Netflix. I finally got around to watching it. If you haven't watched it yet,
no, I haven't.
Watch The Battered Bastards of Baseball. It's about the Portland Mavericks, who played in the Northwest League back in the 70s as an independent team. They were owned by Kurt Russell's father. It's a whole thing.
Huh.
Yeah, it was actually fascinating. But they were naming the different leagues and showing just the different minor leagues. And I will miss a bit of nostalgia of saying this guy was in the Midwest League, this guy was in the IL, this guy he played in the New York Penn League instead of just the
Cape Cod or whatever. Yeah.
Right. You know, it's I do like the bit of nostalgia and bit of whim that comes with something being called the Pacific Coast League as opposed to being called AAA West.
Yeah, I know. It's very sterile. I mean, hey, look, Major League Baseball divisions are like that. That's why they're patterning them after that. But it's just kind of sad.
That's true.
All right, so let's talk about what kind of blew up on certain sites last week, which I mean, was surprising, but not, because I have strong feelings of it, but I can get past it. But, man, I should go ahead and share it. Let me go ahead and do this real quick. I'm going to share this with the audio. All right, here we go.
Teams on the backs of their jerseys. The move was made in an attempt to help casual fans get to know the new players on the team. To read more, just hop on over to NBCSportsBayArea.com.
All right, so that was just a quick quick little view there about that. It's a little odd. What do you think, Eric? I mean, hearkening back to the days of, yesteryear, we did have names on the back of Giants jerseys from roughly 1982 or something like that through 99, when they had the bubble letters and the rounded numbers on the back. And that's obviously what I grew up seeing, so you'd think that maybe I would be fine with it. I'm personally not, because the whole point of the cream old-style jerseys with that block lettering in the front was their traditional jerseys back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Because they had the retro ballpark, they're doing that whole thing. This was the classic traditional baseball look and feel and tradition. And to me, putting the names on the back of the home jerseys is akin to those replica jerseys I'd see floating around the ballpark that would just make me viscerally cringe. I can't stand them. And I never thought I'd see it. I never thought I'd see names on the back of their home creams. And I'm a traditionalist, and I know people go, oh, well, the names are on their road jerseys. It's like, well, yeah, but that's different. Like, it's hard to explain to people. And I guess if you don't care. Yeah, they're not at home, right? So the whole tradition is, and I know this sounds stupid, old curmudgeon. I get it. The tradition is it's the home team. The home fans should know who number 5 is, who number 17 is, who number 21 is, right? On the road, you are visiting a ballpark. Those fans are not familiar with your team. So it was more like let us introduce our team to you so you can keep track of them during the game. So that's kind of the tradition of having names on the back of jerseys. Like the Red Sox have the names on their roads, not on their homes. Now, Yankees are the only team that doesn't have names on either jersey. They've kept that for 100 plus years. But the Giants have had this tradition for quite some time, and the proponents say it's a new era. We gotta curtail to our fans. We have to enable them to understand who the team is and who they are. Plus, we have heavy rotation on our roster. So even, kind of veteran fans are having trouble keeping up. So this would be a good way to do it. So obviously, I'm still against it. I'm not going to not watch Giants games or, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I've seen some really crazy responses from some people. That I think it's, it's social media. It's what you're going to do. But it's against what I would like to see. I don't know. How do you feel?
Well, we'll have to give the Giants credit in one respect, that it will be tastefully done. That was the first time I'd seen it when you showed that video. That was the first time I'd seen the names on the back. And Solano looked really, really good on the back. So
some short names, okay.
Yeah, I know. I'm worried about Yastrzemski. But I think the Giants, at least we can give them credit, will do it tastefully and it will look good.
Yeah.
I don't mind. I felt like growing up, since I grew up in a different area, having the name on the back of the jersey always helped. Granted, all the people that I knew did not know who Giants 25 was. I needed the Bonds on the back.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that. So that's funny.
Right. So I don't mind the names on the backs. I traditionally much prefer the look without the names on the backs. And right. I'm actually the kind of guy that I don't buy a jersey with the name or number on the back. I buy a jersey with a blank back, and I leave it blank because I'm supporting the team on the front, not just the guy in the back.
Right.
But back to the Giants, it's a marketing perspective. Now they can sell Yastrzemski 5 jerseys. Now they can sell 5 jerseys if there's some different guy 2 years from now who's number 5, and Mike Yastrzemski is flushed out of the system. That's it, just entirely what they can do. So it adds to the coffers. I wonder if COVID doesn't hit, if this happens, because I think it's a way for them to make more money. It's a money grab because now all the people are going to be buying new jerseys, because now they have the name on the back of it. So they got to keep up with the Joneses, keep up with the standards. And so people are going to buy them. So I wonder if this was a money grab because they lost out on attendance money last year because of COVID.
I put out a Twitter poll under TortureCast last week.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, do you like the names on the back of the Giants home cream jerseys or home jerseys? 50-50. I was surprised. 50-50 on the response. So, I mean, I don't know what the numbers dictate. Obviously, when the Giants tweeted out a longer video, which, by the way, does show Yastrzemski, and it's awful.
Oh, wow. I gotta go find
I don't have, there's no numbers, but just streaming through the list of responses, it was easily 4 out of 5. We're like, oh my God, no, horrible. Oh, geez, burn them, not in a million years. I don't know what the overall fan base is going to be like. Certainly the casual fair weather fan is going to be like, I don't care, whatever, that's fine. I do think more of your hardcore Giants fans are just, it is what it is.
Yeah,
Go ahead and keep talking. I'm going to get my jerseys just to show you real quick.
Yeah, it totally is a money. I mean, I see you, Sergio. It is a money grab. That's the thing, though, is just like everything else that we see as Giants fans, and this is the stance I always take. We're going to all be used to it within a month, within 2 months, within 3 months. And as Chad will show you, like, I was not fans of the uniform style Chad's about to show that had the names on the backs. I'm much more of a fan of the current uniform style with the cream and the old school type look.
Yeah. So behind me, I've got kind of a new, more recent 2015 road jersey when they had just the SF, of course, kind of calling back to their old road days. This is the only jersey I have without a number on it. I have another home one here. This was my original jersey I bought in 2000. It does have my favorite number on the back, 21. It wasn't after Jeff Kent. I've always liked number 21. I have a gold World Series jersey from 2013 with Posey's number on it. And then I have my original ones. I bought these, believe it or not, in 1989. These are original Rawlings. So I have the original, Giants. And, of course, my favorite player being Will Clark. I did put my name and 22 on the back. So this is kind of what the homes look. There's the Rawlings. So this is original. This is
yeah, it is.
This is 20 something. What am I saying? 30 something years old, which is crazy, right? Smells good though. And same thing, the classic road as well, with the curved block, and then the same thing on the back. This is original King 22 on the back. So these guys I bought, back when I was in high school. I'm 47 now, so
yeah.
And I still barely fit into them, but I do because I got them oversized at the time, which is pretty cool. But
that was the key. You had to do that when you were younger. My Bonds jersey I bought, same exact thing. I bought it oversized so I could grow into it.
Yeah. So now these are 44s. That's what I always buy, 44s, which is kind of cool. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Chris says that we need to bring those whites back. You like those whites ones, huh, Chris? I think for a throwback game or two, that'd be fun. But permanently, it'd be good throwback.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I've always wanted them to use it in a throwback. The Giants aren't the throwback type. I feel like we miss out on that sometimes. And some other teams, they do the throwbacks. And the Giants only seem to get swept up in it when some other team's doing a throwback night.
Yeah.
Like, hell, I think the first time I saw them, they were in a throwback uni in Tampa.
Yeah, it's kind of weird that, they kind of wear their throwbacks like every day, right? Or at least their home ones. That's kind of their throw. It's like the Yankees what are they going to throw a throwback? I mean, I know once in a while they wear the big flannel baggies with like the ancient logo and whatever, or no number when they used to play with no numbers. They have those kinds of dates, but yeah, it's kind of funny either way.
Yeah, so, you know what? That's the thing though. Now with names on the back of jerseys, they can do those kinds of things a little more because it will be a throwback if they do something with no name on the back.
Yeah, I know, right? So I know that the home, it is. It's a money grab. I just wonder how long this is going to last. I mean, certainly probably at least a few seasons, but I don't know. I'll be sad if it lasts. Like, this is the new norm. This is like what they keep. 10 years from now, they still have names on the back of their homes. I'm not going to like that, but...
Yeah, well, we'll move on from this in a moment. I said this to Chad right before the show, and I really do wonder who made the decision, who pulled the trigger, who is the person that said, yes, we must do this? Because I just can't imagine that this is the kind of thing that Farhan is worrying himself about. But for all I know, everything could come from the top down there, and this could be absolutely, Farhan. So you have to wonder if it was like proposed by the board to Farhan and he had to sign off on it or something like that. And it seems like one of those things that's so minuscule for a general manager or a front office to be dealing with. But these are the things that baseball teams deal with.
Yeah, it is. Fun stuff. All right, so you posed a question to me as we wrap up today's podcast. Chad, give me your 5 favorite seasons of all time. So I thought that was a great question. We covered last time 5 favorite moments, right? Was it moments or games? Yeah, it was moments.
Moments
at Oracle. Yeah. And so that was just over the last 20 years. Now we're talking about 5 favorite seasons overall. So I'll go ahead and start it off, and then maybe we can alternate. I kind of ranked them, I guess. So this first one, let me share my screen. This first one is going to be number 5 for me. And let me get there. All right, here we go.
I will rank.
All right, this is not a good moment during the season, but it reminds me of why I was so invested in the 1987 San Francisco Giants season.
1 and 2. And that's driven to right, moving in toward his Maldonado. And he, I think, slipped. I don't think it was the case of trying to get under the lights. And Pena is on his way to third. That did not appear to be the same play as in San Francisco, but it's the same result.
Candy.
Yeah, that wasn't good. But the reason I bring that one up, because it was a famous play, obviously, in Game 6 of the 1987 NLCS against the St. Louis Cardinals. So I was just shy of my 14th birthday. So it was the first time during my, I could recall as a person, the Giants being in the playoffs, right? Because it had been a long time prior to that, when I was like a little kid or even before then. So this was my first time actually sitting down with, a T-shirt and a pennant and my soda and totally getting into the broadcast, going, oh my God, they can make it to the World Series. This is incredible. And in fact, that series, which of course the Giants have a long-standing history and rivalry with the Cardinals in the postseason now, as we know. Thankfully, the Giants have gotten a better share of the Cardinals over the years, but not that series. The Giants, in fact, led 3-2 going back to St. Louis, and that was that Game 6 that was so rough because that ball that Candy Maldonado lost in the lights and Pena got to third, he ended up scoring. That was the only run of the freaking game. That was it. Yep. It was 1-0. So it's not to say the Giants would have won. They needed to score a run. But that clearly cost him the game. Atlee Hammaker pitched one hell of a game that night. And unfortunately, it just didn't work out. And then, of course, they went on to lose Game 7 in the series, and the Cardinals went on to the World Series. But just for me, personally, it was such a memorable season because, like you mentioned, they closed out the season on a tear, made the playoffs, and then, pushed and almost got into the World Series that year. So it was my first year really being invested in a playoff run for the San Francisco Giants, and I have great memories from that season.
Fun facts about the 1987 San Francisco Giants. They finished 90-72 overall. Chris Spire, second baseman, Chris Spire won the Willie Mack Award that year. And as you mentioned, they lost to the Cardinals in the NLCS, which was also one of the first. I didn't rank mine. I should have ranked mine. I totally should have. I did not rank mine. 87 is also on my list. You were 14. I was 8. And this was, like you said, the first time the Giants had been in the playoffs in my lifetime, in my paying attention. I got lucky. I was 8. I got hooked in at a really, really good age.
Yeah.
We moved to a new house that summer. And so my parents tended to have a lot of dinner parties over the next year because everybody wanted to come over and see the new house that my dad had built, not built by hand, but you know what I mean. Yeah. And I'll never forget that series for multiple nights, them having company over and me being the go-between between the television in the one room and then going to the other room and telling my dad what was happening. And then, Dad, you got to come here. There's runners on second and third, and I'm sure during that Game 6 and that Maldonado play, I'm sure we were both standing there and went, oh, at that moment.
Right.
I really am. But 87 was also one of the first ones on my list, too, because that is the season. It's not the season so much as the playoffs that sucked me in and made me a Giants fan forever. I mean, that's why this kid from outside Chicago is talking about the Giants on a podcast, because I got sucked in at the right time.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you want to go with one of yours, or do you want me to finish? What do you prefer?
It's funny because I don't know if you noticed, I wrote mine down. They're the exact same except for one that we listed. So I saw you have something in the hopper for this next year. So let's talk about this next season. We'll just go chronologically, I think.
Okay.
So if you have something queued up for 1989, because that is definitely high on both of our lists.
I do. And here we go with one of the highlights from 1989.
Maldonado with the lead from third. Butler off second. Thompson from first in the pitch. And Clark hits it up the middle in a center field base hit. Maldonado scores. Here comes Butler. On his way to third is Thompson. The Giants lead 3-1. And Superman has done it again.
Superman has done it again. Oh, man. So obviously I just showed you my jerseys, and Will Clark was by far my, sorry about that. By far is my favorite player of all time. And so, I mean, that sent shivers up my spine. Not only from game one, hitting the grand slam off of Greg Maddux in Chicago, but hitting that 2-run single off of Mitch Williams to close out the series. I mean, it was a magical year, and obviously we know what happened in the World Series with the earthquake and them getting swept by the A's. But again, in my lifetime, now it's the first time they've made the World Series, something I could really root behind. So I was almost 16 now, right? So I'm 15 years old, almost 16. And it was just, again, another memorable year. We only had 1 year in between when the Dodgers won the 88 World Series, but it was nice to see the Giants back in, and me and my high school buddies fully invested into the Giants. So just, again, memories. You know what's so funny? I was thinking about this morning when I was putting this list together. You remember watching TV as though it's like crystal clear and amazing clarity and audio and everything like that. And then you look back, and I know there's some degradation with tape from those years, but still, you just look at the resolution and the colors and everything else, and you're like, crap, that was a long time ago. That's old.
How did we see the ball?
Yeah, how did we see the ball? Like, now we have freaking, 4K and everything. So it was just interesting. So, but yeah, so you put 89 as well.
Yeah, because 1989, again, growing up outside of Chicago, we all know the NLCS was against the Cubs. So that just earmarked it. That was my black hat among the blue ones moment. That was totally that. Fun facts about 1989. Dave Dravecky won the Willie Mack Award. Which makes sense because that was the year Dravecky made his comeback. August 10th, he pitched 8 innings and defeated Cincinnati 4-3. And then we all know what happened with the rest of the story. His next time out, he felt a tingling sensation, and then he never pitched again. I didn't mean to make a bummer from that season, but Dave Dravecky, it makes sense as to why he won the Willie Mack Award that year. And Kevin Mitchell won the NL MVP award that season. I honestly did not remember that. I was going back doing some research and had no idea that Mitchell won the MVP that year. His stats, I mean, it totally 47 home runs and 125 driven in. It makes sense.
Yeah, 47 bombs. Yeah, and Clark got a lot of votes for the MVP too. He had a solid season that year as well. So
because Will hit 333 during the season, whereas Mitchell only hit 291. But I mean,
47 bombs, especially back then. That's like that was insane. So yeah, he was great. It was the Pacific Stock Exchange, of course. I had the poster of both Clark and Mitchell in their business suits with eye black and holding their bats. That was hung up in my room for years. It was, again, just a magical year. I thought the Giants could not be stopped, and unfortunately it took an earthquake in the mighty A's to take them down. But
I feel like if we were adults during this time, we would have recognized that NLCS against the Cubs was over the moment Clark hit the homer. I'm not sure.
I know, right?
I don't think I recognized it. I mean, I was in 5th grade. I don't think I recognized it at the time. But I've gone back and watched that game, and it felt like, as somebody who'd been at Wrigley a million times in my life, it felt like every other time at Wrigley where the Cubs get behind and it's just going to blow it. And amazingly, the Cubs won game 2, and the Giants had to come back and win 3 straight at Candlestick.
Yep.
I mean, they didn't have to. It was a 7-game series that year, but.
Yeah, but they prevented it from going back to Chicago. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That was what the key with that Clark hit that you shared was.
Yeah, because that broke a 1-1 tie, and they ended up winning it 3-1 with that ground ball to Robbie Thompson. For the first time in 27 years, the Giants have won the pennant. Hank Greenwald. All right, so the next one I have is 1993, but I am going to share a clip that actually was broadcast in November of 1992.
And now you have Barry Bonds heading west.
Yeah, good news for Giant fans. Baseball's richest contract handed out. National League Most Valuable Player Barry Bonds agreed to a 6-year contract with the Giants worth in excess of $43 million. The Cubs and the Yankees were also interested in the free agent outfielder. The Yanks making the only other actual offer, a 5-year offer worth $36 million. But Bonds goes to the Giants, where his father Bobby once played and where he is expected to become San Francisco's new hitting coach with new manager Dusty Baker. ESPN has also learned that Barry will wear number 24 in San Francisco. That number, of course, retired in honor of Willie Mays. Mays is Barry's godfather and agreed to allow him to wear the number, with the number being retired once Barry is finished with it. In this exclusive interview late Saturday night from Los Angeles, Barry spoke with ESPN.
It's going home and being with my family, my parents. My dad played there, so it kind of means something right now. 24 is great, my godfather, and I get choked up right now, so I'm not going to do that. This is a special moment.
I mean, that is just wow, right?
Wow. Yeah, wow is right.
I mean, just to look back at those days, and I remember, so I was looking for it. It's buried up in my closet. I just took it out last year. I was going through some old memorabilia, and I have all these old newspapers from all sorts of things, but one of them being sports memories, not just Giants, but 49ers. I have the newspaper, the San Jose Mercury News, from that November, it was like 2nd or 3rd, 1992, with the big Barry Bonds picture on the front saying, the Giants land Barry Bonds. I still have it. It's right above my head here. So I just didn't get it out right now. But, I mean, that was a monumental day in San Francisco Giants history and really reshaped the franchise, helped prevent it from going to Tampa Bay, helped it create Oracle, or at that point, Pac Bell Park. I mean, that really was such a watershed event in Giants history. If it wasn't for that signing, the Giants franchise would be totally different and may even be in a different city right now.
And then they went out and performed.
Yeah.
They went out, that was the thing. Like, oh my God, this team is the greatest team we've ever seen. They're going to win 100 games. They're going to run this division. I mean, that's the weird part about that year. Is it was on both of our lists because that is the ultimate gut punch of all the Giants seasons I've ever lived through, and this includes losing Game 7. 1993 was the ultimate gut punch to me, and it's still one of the top 5 seasons of my Giants fandom. Because just of everything, starting with the Bond signing, starting with the not going to Tampa or Toronto, wherever the hell they were going to move at that time, which it was, I don't remember. Then, so fans didn't even know if they were going to have a team. Then they find out the team's going to stay. Then they get a new manager, Dusty Baker, and I'm sure most everybody was like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, he's a Dodger.
Right, because that's what Dusty was known as. And then Barry Bonds signs, and everybody's head spinning. And it's a completely different organization than it was just, a few months prior. And it's just unbelievable the impact that one season, that one signing, that one moment with Barry Bonds, the snowball effect that it created throughout the rest of the 90s. And like you said, leading into the new ballpark and everything. And 93 was a fun season. I mean, they were so good.
Their offense was off the charts with Clark and Bonds, and I honestly, and Williams, it was one of those seasons that was so magical all the way up to the very end. Obviously, people would ask, why is that one of your favorite seasons? They didn't even make the playoffs. Well, it's the most regular season games the Giants have ever won in San Francisco. 103. Think about that, everyone. 103 wins in almost any other season, in any other division, since 1962, would have gotten you to the playoffs. The Giants that year, 1993, is one of the only seasons in Major League history in which 103 wins would not get you a playoff spot. And it sucked. It was, like you said, it was such a gut punch. I was at Candlestick Park on the last day of the year. And you might ask, well, wait a minute, the Giants were in L.A. the last day of the year. That's true. I was attending a 49ers game on the last day of the Giants' season. When they were down in L.A., the Niners were playing the Minnesota Vikings at Candlestick. And what was so bad about that day is the Niners demolished the Vikings. It was a traditional Super Bowl era 49ers demolishing of another team. My dad's company had gotten one of the luxury suites that day. So I was in the suite, and they actually had tube TVs up in the corner like they have the big screens today. I could not watch the football game. I was just glued to the baseball game because they happened simultaneously, both 1 o'clock starts, and just watched the Giants season unfold and just end. And it was so frustrating because that was the year in which the expansion Rockies had their inaugural season. And they played the Dodgers 12 times. And you know how many times the Rockies beat the Dodgers?
Braves.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean the Dodgers. I meant the Braves. You know how many times the Rockies beat the Braves that year? 0. They were 0-12 against the Braves.
Just one time. That's all you need.
At least one win would have made it a tie, right? I mean, and 2 wins would have given it to the... But yeah, that was the season in which the Braves acquired Fred McGriff after the fire in Fulton County Stadium, and the Braves just played with their pants on fire, literally, like the rest of the way. And, that was a 4-game series against the Dodgers. And the Giants won the first 3 to keep pace with the Braves. It was incredible. It was a crazy way to end the season. But the Braves won their final game, and the Giants dropped that 4th and final game to the Dodgers. And, it is what it is. But, Solomon Torres. Well, a lot of people were questioning why he didn't go with Woody that day, but...
I'm looking at Torres' game log right now, and I don't understand what Dusty Baker was thinking. I really don't. Yeah, 2 outings before, he threw 8 innings and only gave up 3 hits, but he walked 6.
Yeah,
I don't want the guy who has my season on the line to be somebody who can't find the strike zone. And in the last 3 games of the season, he walked 6, then he walked 4 and 2 2/3, and 5 and 3 1/3 in that horrendous Dodger game.
Yeah,
I still, to this day, will never understand that decision, and it hurts. You can tell it physically hurts. Solomon, why?
No, it was rough, and I know it's weird, but hey, look, both of us put it on our list, and we didn't even talk to each other about it. So Brooks, 1993 Giants, 103 wins, no playoffs. Sergio Dubon, oh man, that is a gut punch even more than being swept by the A's. Yeah, I mean, because you had a team that could have done serious damage in the playoffs. I think there's no question. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know the Phillies made it that year as the NL East champions, and I think they had 93 wins or something like that. It was 90-something. Anyway, the Giants were far and above a superior team to the Phillies, but of course, the Phillies get in and the Giants don't, which really sucked. Yeah,
and then the Phillies make the World Series. The Braves didn't even make the World Series after that. The Phillies made the World Series. I think that drives me nuts too.
Yeah, no, it's a bitter year, but you know what? It really was kind of the inaugural season of Barry Bonds with the Giants. So it was so fun to see them just every game score 8, 9, 10 runs. It really was one of their highest offensive seasons that year, and you had John Burkett and those guys just rolling through lineups. It really was a magical year that just ended up 1 game short.
Yeah.
All right, so next on your list is we have about the same on that one as well. Oh my God, look at this.
Yeah, I think this might actually be number 1 for me. But 2012 is probably it's probably I'll call it my favorite season as a Giants fan. It had so many things.
No doubt.
A big thank you to everybody for listening to the Torture Cast, the podcast by and for fans of the San Francisco Giants. Follow us on Twitter at TortureCast. You can also like us on Facebook or check out our blog at TortureCast.com.
4-3. And it's the playoff hero Marco Scutero who comes through
For Ben
again.
Lee and Chad King, my name is Willie Dills. saying
Choo-choo pitch
we'll
on the way.
see you
Cabrera
next time.
takes strike 3 called, and the Giants have won the World Series in Detroit. And the celebration begins as the Giants mob the mound. Cabrera strikes out looking to end it. And not only have the Giants won the World Series, they have Tigers in 4 games in dominant fashion.
Wow, Leland bailed out of there so fast.
Yeah, Leland was like, peace, Al. I got to go smoke.
Yep.
Oh, my God. I know. Oh, yeah, Brooks was also reminding us that it was Will Clark's final season in 1993. Yeah, thanks for wrapping that up on that note. It's true that he went to the Rangers after that. He was, of course, my favorite player, so it was rough to see him go. I actually ended up going to a game at Camden Yards in 1994. Or 95. No, it was 94 when the Rangers visited the Orioles. And so I got to see him there. It was really weird to see. But, Brooks also says Scoot a Goat for that that hit in 2012. So you bring that up as maybe your top. I definitely put that as my number 2. That was just an incredible run. We covered this, a little bit last podcast in terms of some of our favorite moments at Oracle Park, even though that particular game was on the road. It was the fact that they came back with all those elimination losses in a row. It was the fact that they did it in such improbable fashion to close out the playoffs, winning 7 in a row after those elimination wins. And then on top of that, sweeping the team that everyone thought was David. Everyone. You look at those old prognosticating ESPN, MLB.com, and everyone's Tigers. Not one soul picked the San Francisco Giants. So it was just satisfying and fun and wonderful. And that's the series. I went to game 1 at Oracle and saw Panda hit 3 bombs. Watch Barry Zito dominate. It was definitely a special season, even though it was their second World Series title.
And you didn't even mention Perfect Kane.
Yeah.
That was the same season. To me, that season, it had it all. The Milkmen.
The Milkmen, yeah.
Yeah, it had Perfect Kane. That was the year, and this is why it's my favorite season of all time. That was the year my dad died. And
that's right.
The way that the season played out was just kind of like, man, he would have gotten a kick out of this. Because that was the best, to me, that was the best offense the Giants had during that entire stretch. That was the best team the Giants had during that entire stretch. They clinched the division with like a week and a half to go or something like that. They didn't do that in 2014, and they definitely didn't do that in 2010.
Yeah.
12 stuck out because we had the Perfect Kane, and like everything seemed so natural. Like you'll remember that PGA golfers were visiting the Giants the day that Kane threw his perfect game, so he was hitting golf balls into the water before the game even started. And it just kind of was like, that just makes sense. Everything made sense. And to have them after Melky, who seemed to be the heart and soul of the team. This is the year they traded for Hunter Pence at the trade deadline, and you'll never forget him coming in his red checkered type shirt, I believe it was, and the camera was following him into the ballpark. See how many so many different moments in this season just jump out. That's why it sticks out to me. And then to have the team rally after Melky goes down with his drug test, and the team rallies, and everybody thought, oh crap, the Giants are going to blow it now. The Dodgers went out and they traded half their roster for half of the Red Sox roster. Josh Beckett, Adrian Gonzalez. Suddenly all these guys were going to win it for the Dodgers. And what did the Giants do? They took off and they won the division by even more games. I think they won by 8 games in the end. So, and you roll that into the Cincinnati series, and then the way Barry Zito performed in the Cardinals series. And that's where it gets me, because there was literally the entire team bouncing and chanting Barry, 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 and that's my dad's name. And yeah, absolutely, Sergio's right. The Freak came in and was a superstar reliever that year. It was as evidenced in the Cincinnati series. He had a absolute I remember he came in and it was one of those things where when Timmy's pitching, where you can just kind of half pay attention because he's just going to mow the guys down.
Yeah.
And he got some of that magic back. So 12 for me is absolutely at the top of my list.
Yeah, it was an incredible year, and it's the last time the Giants or any other team won the NL West. By the way, the Dodgers have now won the NL West every year since.
Buster won the MVP. Didn't even mention that.
Yeah,
Buster
he won the MVP, Silver Slugger.
Yeah, Willie Mack, because he came back from the what the hell is it? The Scott Cousins injury.
Yeah. No, that was great. And that was I think that was the first year after that I really started heavily covering the Giants. In fact, I remember going up to Players Day at the park in February of 2013, and I got to interview Tim Lincecum and Buster Posey and all these guys, and it was a trip to see them coming off the World Series and MVP and just be able to talk to them just freely. It was pretty cool. Just magical run. Obviously, we have one left, and I'll go ahead and share that. And I think a lot of people kind of know where that's heading. We'll see here.
Then we can honorable mention the other ones that I have written down after this one.
For sure.
Here it is. Struck him out. And for the first time since 1954, the Giants are world champions.
Pablo.
Well, there's Freddie Sanchez. There's Brian Wilson closing it out. You know, it's one of those things where I look back at that and to realize that the Giants, the reason it made number one for me, and I think other people would make number one, and I know it was near the top of your list for you too. Yeah. It's just the fact that obviously it was the first World Series victory in our lifetime. Duh. But it was the fact that I just thought the Giants were cursed at this point, right? Not quite as bad as the Cubs at the time or the Red Sox or anything like that, but I just felt like every time the Giants sniffed the playoffs or got close, they just were never going to make it. You know, we have what we just reviewed, 87 and Kenny Maldonado and other things happening, 89 and the A's and the earthquake, you know. We have 93 with 103 wins and not sniffing the playoffs. We have 2002, which is, kind of an honorable mention when, again, they were up in that World Series 3-2. Ended up losing to the Rally Monkey and the Angels. And you got other seasons in between that, they were close or made the playoffs in, 2003 against the Marlins. And it just got to the point where it's like, maybe it was just never meant to be. Maybe they're just always going to be a Cubs or Red Sox or Indians type team. Yeah. And it just finally felt good for it to just break through. And I was so stressed out. That particular game really was that. I know it was game 5. I mean, they beat the Rangers pretty handily. But it was the fact that I was just so stressed out and it was a close game. And Brian Wilson with his, torture, which that was the season in which Kipe coined the phrase, Giants baseball, it's torture. We started our podcast the season after in June of 2011 and called it TortureCast in honor of that season. And I didn't name it. It was Willie Dills, of course, who named it with his friends Ben and Mike. And it just coined it perfectly because every game really was torture. Every game was close. They scratched and clawed away, but always found a way to do it. And here we are in the World Series in a tight game 5, and he found a way to do it again. In fact, I put it on pause. I had a TiVo at the time, so that I had the ability to pause live television.
Ooh,
and I
went all the way back in 2010.
I know, right? I was like, fancy. I actually put it on pause and went for like a 25-minute run. I was so jacked. I needed to just get out of it. So I was able to catch up and watch it. But, man, that was just what a sense of relief and accomplishment and kind of paying your dues as a fan for, well, at the time I would have been, 36 or 37 years old. And it was incredible. It was incredible to finally see it happen.
Yeah, 2010 is one of those seasons. You remember where you were when this happened, when that happened. You remember where you were when they beat the Padres in Game 162. You remember where you were when they won the World Series, obviously. I remember where I was when the ball, Brooks Conrad, totally screwed up for the Braves.
Yeah, through the wickets.
Yep, those little moments, got them to that point. Like, none of us – you mentioned all the heartache. This is something I was trying to explain the other day to some of my younger Giants fan friends, is they don't understand that we literally come from a place of heartache. And we were so used to getting devastated time after time after time that 2010 was just one of those, okay, great. We had this great pennant race with the Padres, but they're probably going to lose in the playoffs to the Braves and, whoever and whatever. It was a nice season. And for once, they finally didn't. And, it's really something that they didn't have to go the distance against any single opponent in those playoff series. Only had to go four games against the Braves. Only had to go 6 games against the Phillies. And then obviously taking down the Rangers in 5 games. I mean, that is the greatest. That is the classic never have to buy a beer in this town team again. Aside from one particular player.
Yeah, you got, Cody Ross being blocked from, I mean, you had all these weird moves and things like, oh, is this really going to work? You had, Pat the Bat, who went to my alma mater, Bellarmine. It was a crazy season. And to see them close it out against the Padres that year, Jonathan Sanchez's no-hitter, just so many memories of that game. And it was also the first time, hey, look, Barry Bonds hasn't been on this team for a couple of years, but they were still able to do it. And they were able to do it without Barry Bonds. And so that was kind of a big monkey off their back as well. Not that they ever did it with Barry Bonds, obviously, but they got close. And they had some fantastic seasons with him. So it was kind of the turning of that page in Giants history.
Well, Timmy turned that page in Game 1 of the NLCS.
Oh, against Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah, that was the game. That was, if there's a game that I go back to from that season and watch the most on YouTube, it's that game.
Yeah, 14 Ks or something like that night?
Yeah, it was 14 strikeouts. And I'll never forget, in the interview afterwards, he's like, I could have kept going. He just was going out there doing his thing, sitting back down, going out there doing his thing. And that's where the famous "you stay there" comes from, because the guy made it to third base. And obviously, I don't think I believe it was a shutout. You'd think I'd remember after watching it a few times. But that was Timmy saying, okay, this is different. This is not the same thing that you guys are used to. Yeah, this is different. This is not the same game. This is not the same team. This is not the same outcome anymore. And, no Giants team had done that. Like I mentioned, in '89, the Will Clark Grand Slam that kind of set the tone for that entire series. Yeah, but it didn't change what type of a team the Giants were. In the end, they still blew it. This just seemed to be a different team. 2010, I'll never forget where I was the moment. I don't normally chew tobacco. And I chewed tobacco through the entire World Series. I don't do it now, I promise. It is not something that I do. But you're talking about nerves. You manifested it in a healthy way. I did not.
Oh, in plenty of other games, I did not manifest that stress in a healthy way. Usually it was my friend Jack or Jim that was helping me out. So. All right, well, that'll do it for our trip down memory lane. I mean, look, we look at these things fondly, and it was an incredible, last decade of Giants baseball, and we have these fond memories because we're a little bit on the older side from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s. But that was fun, Eric. Thanks for that question. And I think we're going to try and do that for a lot of our podcasts, especially, during spring training, there's not as much meat to cover, where we're in the regular season depths where we're trying to record every week, where, there's a couple series to review, transactions, injuries, why did they do this, why did they do that, which usually take up better part of an hour. But it's great to look back on these wonderful memories that we've had.
I'm going to shout out real quick. I'm going to shout out 2002. They made the World Series. Like you said, they were up 3-2. Shout out 97. That was a fun season. Brian Johnson.
Yep.
Shout out to 2000, JT Snow, and winning the division. Or no, were they a wild card team? They were the wild card team, weren't they?
They were wild card, yeah.
Yeah, because I believe, D-backs. But either way, they made the playoffs in the first year in their new ballpark.
Yep.
And then 2014, Madison Bumgarner, not much more needs to be said for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's not that we don't recognize those other years. Like 2002, I was actually able to attend a game. It was Game 3, I believe, of the World Series. They lost to the Angels that game. I was at AT&T in 2000 when JT Snow hit that game-tying home run off of the metal tin roof there in right field, and they eventually lost. Yeah, a lot of memories, not just watching it, but actually physically being there too. Been fortunate enough to see a lot of these things. But anyway, the Giants actually have their third game tonight, and I think a lot of us are going to be watching. It's going to be against the Dodgers, the Bums, and someone's going to be starting at shortstop. Who is that?
Marco Luciano is going to start at shortstop. See how excited I am?
I know. No, that's going to be fun.
It's funny because I was reading, I think it was Bags again, and he was talking about how the beginning of Giants camp should be fun because we're going to see all these prospects because as it progresses, Crawford's going to get his at-bats in. Posey's going to get his at-bats in. Longoria's going to get his at-bats in. But up until then, we're going to get to see some of these fun faces. And I'm looking forward to seeing Luciano. Walker Buehler's starting for the Dodgers. I believe Logan Webb is starting for the Gents. And I don't know how many innings he's scheduled for, but it'll be nice to see Giants-Dodgers baseball on the screen for the first time this year.
Yeah.
With fans in the stands. I mean, I love seeing the fans in the stands. It really,
even if it's just a few here and there.
968.
Yeah, it's not many. Yeah, not much more than a Little League game.
Yeah, it really isn't. 968. Like, did they just go around and count them by hand?
Yeah,
Thanks, Brooks.
I know.
Do they go around and count them by hand? That's the funny thing. But I'm looking forward to having some baseball. We'll probably take another couple weeks, and then we're gonna have a season preview show like always, and cover stuff down at the end of March. But it's March again. Can you believe it? It's March again.
No,
a year ago, we sat down to do a podcast about the Astros cheating scandal.
Yeah.
And all hell broke loose that day. And here we are. We're finally back to March again. This has been the longest year ever.
It has been the longest year. We're all looking forward to getting back outside. But everybody out there, be careful. Be patient. The light is at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel's still a little ways away. Even if you've been vaccinated or will be soon, remember, still wear your mask, do your normal thing. Just wait patiently. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. And I know baseball's doing what they can to keep everyone safe. But I'm really hoping, by midsummer, the end of this summer, Eric, things will not be normal, but they're going to be getting back to where we're going to kind of start forgetting about this thing and this crazy year of all of our lives. What a crazy year it's been.
It's unbelievable.
All right. Well, that'll do it for episode 214 of the Torchcast. Thanks for joining us on Facebook Live if you were here. If not, you can find our audio podcast at torchcast.com or your favorite podcast feed. As you can see below, you can follow us individually at ChadK21 and 2OutHits with the number 2 on Twitter or collectively at TortureCast. And, of course, like us on Facebook if you're not watching this live. Eric, you got anything else?
Just the Giants Chatter Facebook group. Join it if you like talking Giants baseball. It's a good group of people. And we're going to be having live game threads tonight. There'll be one. So if you happen to catch this before the Giants-Dodgers game tonight, hop on over, check that out. But there should be some stuff. We've got friends over there who do their own podcast. They say, hey, podcast is over there. RizzoCast is over there. So there may be some cross pollination going on by the end of this season. So look forward to some things there. So I just want to pimp that. Like I said, if you want another alternative from the craziness that can happen in some of the Giants Facebook groups, and I won't name the name this time, then come on over to Giants Chatter. It is public at the moment, but we'll probably lock it down and make it private when the season starts. Just trying to get people in here at the moment. Yeah. And follow the rules. Just don't be a jerk. That's really the main rule. Don't be a jerk. But that's just kind of a life rule.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to see some other podcasts coming online. I know that, our podcast, this is the 11th year of this podcast, which is just crazy. Like, what the hell, This is episode 214, but if you include the season previews and the bonus sods we've done over the years, where we went to Zeke's, which is no longer RIP Zeke's, and, would have our bonus podcasts after we covered a Giants game, we have over 280 podcasts online. But it brings back kind of the days where we used to have special guests on for our season previews. We would all go to either Zeke's or another bar, and I'd bring all my audio equipment, and we'd have like 6 of us around the table splitting pitchers of beers. And although we can't do that this year, we'll see if we can, maybe like you just suggested, have some cross-pollination with some of these other podcast for, maybe a preview or somewhere in the middle of the season. But we'll look for those opportunities to develop. And of course, I should still be able to go up to Oracle Park when the season starts and cover games, even if and when fans aren't allowed in there, to kind of bring some of that fun insider stuff that's a little bit atypical of a beat writer coverage for the Giants. All right, well, that'll do it for episode 214. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Until then, a boom.